Hey guys, welcome to Beyond the Key podcast, powered by Brown Home Group, where we go beyond real estate and dive into the everyday essentials that shape how we live and thrive. I'm going to be your host, Rick Brown, and today we're talking about something that may not make the headlines, but definitely impacts your peace of mind: pest control. So my guest today knows this world inside and out with over 30 years of experience and a family legacy spanning 3 generations. He's the guy who keeps Florida homes safe and bug-free. Please welcome David Wideman of Colonial Pest Services. David, we are thrilled to have you on today's show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, welcome to the podcast. And for our listeners that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about your journey from, where you're from? I mean, I always like to get to know my guests. I think I know you a little bit, but why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers a little about you and your
I'm a
journey.
Born and raised Floridian. I was born in Gainesville, Florida, back in the early 70s. I've been in Orlando since 1999. My wife and I got married here in 2000, started having children in 2001. We have 3 kids. 2 of my kids work in the business, and my daughter lives in Boca and went to FAU and enjoys living down there. And that's kind of us in a nutshell as far as how we got here.
So tell us, give us a little bit of the journey from corporate pest control to now running your own family business.
Well, I started with a small pest control company up in Panama City, and then I moved to the corporate pest control world and started working for the same company my dad worked for up in the Panhandle in Panama City. I've been in Panama City, Fort Walton Beach, Pensacola, all through the Panhandle. My parents decided they wanted to move closer to family down here in Orlando to help take care of my grandparents back in the late 90s. So we regrouped, decided to move to Orlando because at the time was one of the largest growing counties in the state, and decided this is where we wanted to start our own small business. We moved here in 99. Helped take care of my grandmother and grandfather until they passed. My grandmother just passed earlier this year at 101 years old.
Wow.
So
what a great life.
We're moving into the next stages of our life. Like I said, both my sons are now working in the business as well. So we're a 3-generation pest control company. And that's us.
So what inspired you and your dad to start Colonial Pest Services? Back, I think my notes say 1999.
1999, we were just
what was the first year like?
What's that?
What was that first year look like?
That first year was interesting. I had to regroup, and we moved in. I moved in with my parents because we were starting a company, so I lived with them for the first year before I got married. So I've been doing this since before I got married. We just kind of, my aunt and uncle live here locally, my dad's sister, so we were trying to get closer to help take care of the medical needs for my grandmother and grandfather. First year was interesting. I mean, it went well. I mean, better than expected because we started from scratch. We did not buy a company and start a company down here. We picked up from day one and just started, networking, beating the bushes, walking. We walked door to door a lot. Saw a yard that had a problem, saw a pest problem. We'd stop and talk to somebody, and just kind of went from there and just kind of ballooned into there to where we are today, 26 years later.
Wow.
Running strong and running well and keeping it small because I like it small, so.
Yeah. Well, I see your signs everywhere, and you are one of our top preferred vendors when it comes to Brown Home Group and taking care of our clients. So let's dive into pest control, because I'll be honest with you, when I found out you were going to be my guest, I'm thinking, man, this could go really good or this is going to really suck. Because, no offense, pest control, not very sexy, right?
We'll try to keep it interesting. How about that?
Yeah, there you go. So most people think pest control is about just spraying and leaving. What's a big misconception about your industry?
A big misconception is how much training goes into it. It requires the state. We're governed by the state of Florida. The Ag Department is our government agency that we report to. all our technicians have to go through, continuing education every year, 2 hours of core training, which is just a broad spectrum of new laws, things of that nature that are coming out in that year. And then 2 hours for every category that we service. For us, we service lawn, household pest control, mosquito. So we have to do 2 hours for each one of those licenses. So 6 or 8 hours a year, so it's basically a day-long class at the University of Florida's campus or something to that effect, to do the continuing education and keep our guys up to date on what's coming up, what's going to be changing, what laws are going to be changing, how the treatments are changing, how the laws are changing, so we have to change our treatments, things of that nature.
Wow, I did not realize. So you literally have to be licensed.
Yes.
And you have to go to school for this.
Well, it's more like a class. It's not really a school.
Okay.
A lot of it.
So is there so many hours?
Training, on the job, on the site training, but with the laws and all that, you still have to know what you're doing and how to treat something and be inside. Because in our industry, the label is the law. So you have to really make sure you're treating with whatever pesticide you're using inside the label. Because if you're outside the label, that's when fines and things like that can happen, and the state gets involved, and you don't want the state to get involved. So.
Right. But so just so our listeners understand, so you have to take a class to be certified. And what does that certification look like? Are you learning everything there is to know about each bug?
You're learning. Believe it or not, you're learning. How they breed, how they live, where they live. You're learning the laws on how to make sure you're doing it properly. Your life cycles of bugs, you need to know that, because different treatments for different life cycles can be a big thing, especially in lawns and things of that nature. So you've got to know what life cycle they're in. You got to know when you look at one what life cycle it's in. So there's a lot of identification and figuring out what the problem is to fix the problem as quickly as possible for the client.
Wow. Okay. So there's a lot there to kind of absorb. So Florida obviously is notorious for pests. Primarily we call them palmetto bugs. What would you say is your top 3 pests homeowners in Florida should be most concerned about?
Well, household pest control is palmetto bugs, especially this time of year when we're getting a lot of rain. They're starting to drive in and move in. Issues right now are a big one because of all the rain. Travel mostly at night, and all these night rains are driving them in, so we're seeing a lot of volume and ant calls. Lawn-wise, chinch bugs and side webworms are big ones right now this time of year. So we have treatments to do at the beginning of the summer just to get them to keep the yards covered for disease and insects and things of that nature.
Chinch bugs can destroy a lawn, can it not?
In a hurry.
Yeah. And so based on all the horror stories, what's one of the most unusual challenging pest situation you've ever dealt with? Like, is there a particular bug that just pisses you off and you're like, damn it,
just take some time. They're the small, people call them kitchen roaches or water bugs or whatever.
Right. Yep. I've seen them.
They're the toughest because when they get into a house, it takes several applications. The baits do great jobs now. I'm from an era when spraying was the crack and crevice spray treatments were big back when I first started. And over the last 20 years, it's evolved into a lot more baiting and things like that. And the baits do a great job, but if you have a bad infestation, it can take 2 or 3, sometimes even 4 applications to get it under control, depending on what you run into in each house. Those are your pain in the rump ones, is the ones that you have to keep going back, and it's not a quick fix. Customers like quick fixes a lot of times, so that one you have to nurture and you have to kind of be on top of it.
Yeah. Now, I know we see a lot something called silverfish. Is that a bug that can really affect your lawn, or does it affect the inside? I mean, what is that? I don't know. I've seen it in my house.
Silverfish and fire brats. They look.
I don't see it now, folks, just because he's my pest control guy. But we did see it at one time.
Silverfish and fire brats are cousins of each other. One's a little different color to get into a lot of detail than the other, but they look a lot alike. They hang out in water source areas, mostly bathrooms, kitchens, maybe even around your washer and dryer area. They are easy to get rid of. There's lots of good baits out there, granular baits that work very, very well. Just a matter of identifying where they're coming from, where you're having the problem at, and closing it out. But yes, they are an issue in Orlando.
Yeah, and just so I understand, because I may have mentioned it earlier, you do pest control indoor and outdoor.
I do pest control indoor and outdoor, and I do lawn and ornamental, and we do mosquito, and we do rodent control as well.
Rodent control, but you do not do termite.
I do not do termite or fumigation. No, we used to be a full-service pest control company, but we've kind of moved toward the household and lawn and ornamental side of it, so we don't do any termite work anymore.
Which is good, because you become the expert in your field, and trying to vast study. It makes it it's sort of like in my business, right? I primarily focus on residential real estate. Even though I can do commercial, I don't consider myself an expert. And so for you, pest control is where you keep your lane and what you're the best at.
And it's also easier to train my technicians, because I'm focusing on certain things versus them having to, because I'm a little different than a lot of companies. All my technicians can do anything that we do as far as our license goes. If I send a technician out there, he can do it. Where in a lot of other companies, they have just a household pest control technician, they have just a lawn technician, they have just a shrub technician. They stay in their lane that closely, where we are a lot different. If my technician's on your property, he can answer any question or any problem you're having and identify any problem, all the way from household pest control to lawn and ornamental to mosquito to rodent controls.
Yeah, and for the listeners out there and viewers that are watching, in real estate, and not to come back full circle, but the pest control part can really affect the ability to not only it'll impact the value of the home, but the ability to sell a home when there's bugs, or God forbid, the ever chinch bug that destroys a lawn. So if you are out there and you are considering possibly listing your home, obviously give us a call, but we will connect you with David and his team to come out and see if we can't beautify that lawn before we come in and take pictures and try to get you top value for the property. So it's funny how we kind of full circle where your role comes into real estate, because it can also become part of the inspection process. When we do an inspection, we're looking as a buyer at the lawn. We're looking at the interior based on what issues can be uncovered. Now, most of the time it's termites, right? That's the biggest killer. Is there a particular pest? I mean, you just mentioned rodents, which I didn't even know you did that, David. So I'm glad to know that. So if I know that when I do an inspection, I got drop pellets up in the attic, and it happens to be rats or mice, that's something you can help with? Absolutely.
And curb appeal in your line of work, curb appeal is everything.
Correct.
If you drive up to a house and it looks beautiful outside, you have a much higher chance of turning that property over and selling it to a new client. So curb appeal is very important when it comes to outdoor beautification. So
yeah, and again, it can obviously kill a deal as fast as it can help a deal, depending on the curb appeal, like you're mentioning. Or I've had it where I've walked into a home with a buyer and there's a roach, and it just crawls right over the front of the foyer, and we didn't get past the foyer. We're out the door.
I've seen that happen, yes.
And it can be, and then what is that ant? Sugar ant?
Sugar ants are very common in the kitchen. Sugar ants, ghost ants, yes, they're small, but they're a very big nuisance.
And sugar ants, I mean, I've seen, again, when I've gone into a house and it's like, even the house is vacant, but there was something left in the pantry, food, and you open up the pantry and there they are, and they're just devouring whatever was left. And a buyer sees that and just thinks, I can't even get past it. I don't even want to deal with it. So you'll come in as a pest control, and maybe there's something we can talk about as a service to a seller when they move out, that you come in and you do a treatment that potentially is going to help. Because I have gone into it where the roach is upside down and it's dead. And that's a big difference, right? And that's where I can go, well, see, they've used a pest control company like Colonial Pest Services, and they've taken care of it. So that's a good thing. Yes. It's the ones when they're moving, right?
Yeah, people don't like them moving.
No, they don't like them moving.
We do a lot of service for, home buyers moving in. They'll have us come in and do a good treatment through the house before they even move in, because everything's empty. We have great access. So it's the very common practice for new homeowners or even sellers to have it done right as they move out. So it's and we do a lot of that type of stuff.
So let's talk about prevention. Obviously, first one would be to hire you. But what are some simple things that maybe homeowners could do to avoid a major infestation before it starts?
Tupperware, that's a big one. Put your dog food in a Tupperware container, like a sealed bucket, versus having it laying out. Your pastas, put them in a storage container that's sealed. That'll help with stored product pest. Just things of that nature. Just kind of keep things sealed up. The less access they have to the food around them, the better off you'll be. I just say most of it's keeping good sealed containers around and making sure that things don't get into them like that. So, and it doesn't attract them as easily as either. So.
Now, I know that we have a lot of rain lately, and you kind of touched on it earlier, so far as when it rains outside, the bugs have nowhere to go, so they go inside.
This is very true this time of year. And also, large roaches are at their highest peak right now in August. They breed because it's the hottest time of year. They breed all summer, so in August is your most common time for large roaches, the palmetto bugs per se, because they're at their highest peak of reproduction. So, and then you get the 4 or 5 inches of rain that we've been getting at night, and guess where they're going? They're going out of the mulch and out of the trees and into your house.
Right. Yeah, and that's funny you mentioned that, because again, as a homeowner, you probably want to make sure you have your trees cut back. And I have a guest coming up, hopefully really soon, Sakura Outdoors, that does that trimming of trees and landscaping, and I'm excited to bring him on. But that probably you guys work together, I would imagine, right?
We work together very well. He's one of the guys I work very closely with. But when we do an exterior treatment on a house and they're having ants or roaches, we're always looking: are the shrubbery up against the house? Are they laying against the window? Are the trees touching the roof? Those are all access points for bugs to get in without even ever touching the ground. And they'll even get in if they have access to get into the house without even going around our treatments. So we have them always trim shrub and limbs and stuff like that if needed. If they're, those are extra access points that we can't control. So
not only that, but rodents, right? They get on there and they get up on the tree and they come out into the roof.
I've seen them on trees. I've seen them on fence lines. I've seen them. Yeah, they do all kinds of stuff. I've seen them actually scale stucco houses. Believe it or not, they can climb up the side of a wall. So, yes.
So in today's world, people are concerned about chemicals, and you use chemicals a lot for the lawn and things like that. But a lot of us have kids and pets. How safe are the modern pest control methods for
compared to when I started in the market back in the 90s and even in the 70s and 80s? A lot of those products aren't around anymore. They're very, very safe. There's not many problems with asthma type children, because that's a big question I get a lot. Asthma. My dog has allergies. Most of our stuff doesn't have an allergy based problem with it. And if somebody knows a chemical that their child or their pet is allergic to, we have a couple of different things we can do that won't use that particular agent, and that seems to help. So, and the biggest thing is we do it, and most of our products now are baits and granulars on it, especially in the yard. So we don't use a lot of liquid sprays anymore. So it gives you a slow, you don't have the wetting agent on the grass and wait for it to dry. We still tell everybody to stay off the grass for about an hour when you're outside. Inside, all of our baits are in cracks and crevices now. We don't really spray like they did back in the 80s and 90s. So everything's out of the way and kind of safe to where the animals and the kids really can't get to it anymore.
So how often, David, should a homeowner schedule a pest inspection, and kind of what's that biggest mistake that people do it on their DIY pest control when they try to do it?
DIY, a lot of times they don't know where they're applying it. They don't know where the bug's coming from to apply it properly. So you get you can get some chemical crossover, you can get some problems with that because we're trained to know where to put it. We're trained to say, okay, this bug lives here or that bug lives here. So that's where we need to base our treating, strategy at. Where a homeowner just kind of goes in and just starts sprinkling stuff around and says, okay, that should help. And they may not even gotten close to the root of the problem. So that's where a lot of the DIY comes in, is they just don't understand. And you can buy some of the products we use over the counter, not many of them. There are a few like Home Depots and Lowe's, but you got to know where you need to put it to get it to work properly. So.
Okay, and so how often should a homeowner schedule a pest inspection? You do it once a week, once a month?
At least once or twice a year if they're not having a problem. We can give them information on what they need to do to keep from having a problem. We do monthly maintenance stuff around the outside. We don't necessarily need to come in as much anymore. Like the inside pest control is kind of fading to a thing of the past because all the baits and everything that we use around the outside are doing such a great job. So we can do monthly, bi-monthly, and quarterly type maintenances around the outside, depending on how much pressure you're getting from the outside to decide what type of treatment's best for you and things of that nature.
Yeah, and for our listeners, guys, don't worry. We are going to put all of David's information for Colonial Pest Services, so you'll be able to reach out, schedule your, not like, will you do an evaluation? Will you go there and take a look? And then do you make an individual plan for that particular homeowner, or is that just a straight, here are different plans that we offer?
That's where we're kind of a little different than a lot of other companies, is I'm not going to make you do monthly service if I don't feel you need to do monthly service. If I think you're fine with a quarterly service, but we do all of them. We do monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly. It really depends on what the homeowner really is looking for and how much they want us on property. So we kind of cater to what they want, and our technicians and myself ask those questions to find out what they're looking for, what that type of problem they're having. Some problems we may need to be monthly. Some problems we can probably just go bi-monthly or quarterly and be just fine. So.
Okay. So, kind of looking into the future, where do you see the pest control industry heading? Like, say, next 5-10 years?
Well, one of the few things that we won't get run out is AI. We haven't figured out how to treat houses from
computer.
From the computer yet. So that's I know a lot of companies are going to AI, and a lot of people.
So your job is safe.
Yeah, our job is safe. We've not figured out how to do it from the computer yet. So, and I don't think that's ever going to change. But the baits are getting better and better, longer and longer, and they're lasting longer, and they're getting they're not breaking down as far as for weather, especially outside type stuff. But they're constantly working on new products and trying to make them last longer and work longer. But unfortunately, with the sunlight and the UAV rays, and you're going to have breakdown. But they're always tweaking. We're always getting new chemicals on the market and products on the market to try to make it safer for one, longevity for two.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, any new tech innovations or trends that we should know about that are coming out?
Right now, the biggest trend was the baits. I mean, the biggest trend we've had over the last 15 years is going from crack and crevice sprays to crack and crevice baits, because they just last longer, they work better, you get better control with them in a quicker time frame. But I don't know there's any big changes coming up anytime soon. That was the biggest one, and that was in the late 90s, early 2000s when a lot of that stuff was happening. So.
Oh, wow. So if you could give one piece of advice to homeowners about pest control, what would it be? Besides hiring you.
Besides hiring me, to pay attention to irrigation. I mean, that's the biggest thing in this. Right now we're getting plenty of rain, but usually like end of April, beginning a whole month of May, and maybe the beginning of June, we don't get much rain. I see a lot of irrigation issues. I see a lot of drought damage. And that causes other issues in your yard, causes weed issues when we start getting a lot of rain. start bug problems. They'll attack the wheat grass. The biggest thing is keeping your yard watered, especially in the drought time, and making sure it doesn't thin. Because when it starts thinning, that's when you start running into a lot of problems.
Yeah, again, not to plug the other company, but Sakura Outdoors also does that irrigation-free evaluation. And so I know, again, you guys talk when you're having a pest control issue, right, and the lawn is dry, it makes your job harder. And so having that connection with Sakura Outdoors is another advantage. But
I refer all my work to him, and like I said, if it's not getting water on it, I can't make it grow. So gotta get good coverage.
And I too have a great relationship. If you are looking to sell your home, we can definitely get a free evaluation through Sakura to come out and check out your irrigation system to make sure it is working to the fullest.
They do great. They do great. And they're another small family-owned business as well. So
gotta help them out, right?
Yep.
Before we wrap up, tell our listeners and our viewers, where can they find you? How can they connect? Obviously, we'll put your information in the chat below, but how do they get a hold of you?
I have an Instagram link you can get to. I have a Facebook link you'll get to on this this podcast when I'm done. Colonial Pest Services.com is another one. They'll take you straight to my website, and you can give me your information, and then I'll call you and we'll book an appointment. Those are the three best ways to get a hold of us. Or you can see one of our beautiful signs in somebody's yard while you're walking your dog, and call from that, and we'll be more than happy to take any information and help you out in any way we can.
Awesome. Hey, Dave, thank you so much for sharing your expertise, giving us an inside look of what it really takes to keep pests out and peace in. And to all of you listening or watching, remember, whether it's your home, your lifestyle, or just those little things that make life better, we've got more amazing conversations coming your way. So hit that subscribe button, leave us a review, share this episode with somebody who needs to hear it. Because trust me, you do not want to miss what's next on Beyond the Key, powered by Brown Home Group. Until then, keep your keys close and your pest control closer. See you on the next one. Always remember, make it a great day. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
All right, buddy.